So welcome to to our study of Omniscient Jigme Lingpa's Treasury of Precious Qualities. Could I just do a sound check? Can you hear me? Actually, that question was presumed on the fact that you could. Thank you very much. That puts my mind at ease. Okay, so we, as always, begin with generating the enlightened intention, recognizing the value of what we're studying here, recognizing the value of the path, and dedicating our efforts to the intention to dedicate ourselves entirely to establishing all sentient beings at the level of perfect enlightenment. So this we call preparing the ground with bodhicitta. So we begin with invoking the wisdom body of Omniscient Jigme Lingpa, the source of love and compassion for all beings, who knows all that is knowable, emanation of Longchenpa, heir to a treasury of mind-telmers, sky-like yogin of the vast expanse of luminosity. Jigme Lingpa, at your feet we pray. So we're presently looking at the Four Boundless, and we will now be looking at the value of meditating on the Four Boundless. So in the root text, Omniscient Jigme Lingpa says, when love is mastered, we will care for beings as though they were our children. Being free of angry hate, we will be prized by others. Love, by nature empty, free of intrinsic being, will lead to the accomplishment of mirror-like wisdom and Sambhogakaya. So the value of mastering love almost goes without saying. I think everybody intuitively appreciates what that implies. But it's very often, of course, that love for most of us is directed towards particular persons. And what we're talking about here is, in fact, love that's directed in the boundless sense. So when we're talking about the present chapter here, boundless, the four boundless reflections, attitudes, these are then all sentient beings. So that's where we're talking about a magnificent quality of love, and that is then a love that is directed towards all beings as though they were our children. And that someone that has that naturally is quickly recognized as being somebody extraordinary and will be the object of others' respect. If that in addition also is to the extent that we're free of the notion, gosh, I'm full of love, you know, this is so often in the sort of the modern vernacular, you know, where we very often we sort of say, oh, I have so much love. Oh, I just feel love. In fact, what we're saying is actually, it's not exactly bragging, but we should be aware that our love is very limited in that it's tinged with a lot of insecurity, a lot of demands, a lot of strings attached and so forth. So that's where for love really to be boundless, it's first of all, we're talking about the love that in terms of, you could say, dualistic perception, relative truth, is directly to all sentient beings. And then also free from the notion of subject, object, and action. And that's where the implication here and why it becomes the cause of bodhicitta is then that there's also this absence of dualistic reference point or the notion of subject, object, and action. And that's where we understand that it's empty by nature. Well, that's what we meditate on in order to meditate on it according to its intention. But when that happens, yes, then this brings about the accomplishment of mirror-like wisdom. So that's where we're talking about the 4 or 5 wisdoms in terms of how they relate to the 4 boundless and Sambhogakaya. And Kangyur Rinpoche then says, as one becomes proficient in the practice of boundless love, one will come to cherish all beings as a mother would love her only child. Through the power of such love, in which anger and hostility have no place, one will receive the affection and appreciation of others. By meditating on the fact that love is by nature empty, that is, that it is devoid of inherent existence, one will achieve the unobstructed knowledge of mirror-like wisdom and gain the Sambhogakaya endowed with the ocean-like infinity of the major and minor marks of Buddhahood. As it is said in the Pema Tsemo Tantra, by love is anger driven out, and the mirror-like wisdom and Sambhogakaya are perfected. So then, verse 15, Jigme Lingpa says, when of compassion we have then the mastery, others' sorrow we will shoulder as our burden, our minds released from enmity and craving. Compassion joined with emptiness will lead to realization of the all-discerning wisdom and the Dharmakaya. So here, similarly, this infinite compassion, and we would define then again compassion as wishing that others be free of suffering and being attentive to the fact, or rather being attentive to the suffering that others have and being unable to bear that. And that's where we shoulder others' burden. It's not like, please, I can only take that much sorrow. You know, please go somewhere else. For the Bodhisattva, there's never any notion of fatigue. I think even nowadays there's an expression that's called compassion fatigue, and that obviously is where it goes wrong. But let's say we do practice this according to its intention, then the result is our mind is released from envy and enmity and craving. This is absence of anger towards others, and also desire, absence of desire. Now, when such a compassion is joined with emptiness, and this is then where there won't be compassion fatigue. That is then that leads that this is a condition of freedom, and as such, compassion is not something artificial that's complicated, that's cultivated as a, you could say, an addition to our existing psychological phenomena. That we have all sorts of things going on, and then also we have this compassion that we're cultivating, but it does become tiresome. And that's where compassion, when it's joined with emptiness, is understood as being the natural condition of the mind. And as such, there's no notion of being compassionate to someone else. It's simply just a natural expression of our innate, non-dual, intrinsically pure, primordial condition. So as such, then this kind leads to the realization of the all-discerning wisdom and the Dharmakaya. So this is then where this brings about particular benefits relatively and ultimately the qualities of realization. So Kangyur Rinpoche then comments, likewise, in becoming proficient in great compassion, one will be able to bear the burden of all the sorrows of others as though they were one's own. Unable to tolerate the fact that others suffer, one will think only of ways to free them from their sorrow. One will never entertain thoughts of aggression even for an instant, and will approach other people as friends with an attitude free from any trace of passionate desire. Compassion is nothing but the glow and display of emptiness, from which it is inseparable. This is where we always say that wisdom and compassion are inseparable. On one hand, there's the absence of self. And in there being the absence of self, there's no longer the problem of the self. And as such, the natural disposition of the no longer diminished, of the mind in its intrinsic nature, that is free from the diminishment of the delusional clinging to self, its natural character is warmth and compassion. And genuine compassion also possesses the wisdom that doesn't fall into the notion of subject, object, and action. It's only there that compassion really becomes compassion, because it's no longer undertaken with the notion of I am being compassionate to somebody. And this is again where we have this, again, You can see when compassion practiced according to its intention, it does not bring about compassion fatigue. It does not have this sense of I can only do that much, but simply just inseparable from emptiness. Compassion manifests as its natural expression and is free from this notion of subject, object, and action. As such, the Bodhisattva isn't even conscious, doesn't even think, I am being wonderful, I'm being compassionate. So Kangyur Rinpoche says it embodies a clear understanding of the principle of cause and effect that dominates all samsaric phenomena, including living beings. It leads finally to the realization of all discerning wisdom, which perceives clearly and distinctly all objects of knowledge, and thence to the attachment of the Dharmakaya, naturally endowed with every quality. As the Pema Tsemo Tantra says, through compassion is desire cleansed. This is wisdom, all discerning, the Dharmakaya. So then 16, when joy is mastered, envy's root is severed. Firm will be our wealth and of wholesome qualities. Our calm serenity of mind will be unbroken. Our joyful concentration will be free from every concept. We will gain the wisdom, all accomplishing, and the supreme Nirmanakaya. So again, here we're talking about the boundless joy, the opposite of jealousy. And endowed with these kind of qualities, then we have a continual condition of confidence. We never at this sense of poverty. So that's where the condition of boundless joy, it's free from the reference points of myself and the others, where we're looking to the others, Are they doing well? Are they practicing better than I am? Do they have more than I am? And so forth. So with that, we say here that we will gain the wisdom, all accomplishing, and the supreme Nirmanakaya. So Kangyur Rinpoche comments, as one becomes proficient in the practice of sympathetic joy, all jealousy and resentment at the happiness and prosperity of others will evaporate. On account of the unusual pleasure one feels at the happiness of others, one's own wholesome qualities will be stable, and one will enjoy an uninterrupted satisfaction, free from the torment of jealousy. As a result, one's meditative concentration will be undisturbed. Sympathetic joy is essentially a sense of happiness at the perfect endowments of others, free from the strain that arises from the dualistic apprehension of subject and object. And again, here we can see how this quality of non-duality intrinsically constitutes the objective of the practice, and also is what renders this practice authentic. Accordingly, on the ultimate level, all accomplishing wisdom, which effortlessly achieves the benefit of others, will come into play. One will attain the supreme Nirmanakaya and strive for the welfare of others. As it is said in the Pema Tsemo Tantra, jealousy is purified by sympathetic joy. This is wisdom, all accomplishing, the supreme Nirmanakaya and the supreme spontaneous activity of Buddhahood. So in 17 then, I'm not sure that's the fact. I'm not sure there's this, because the last one is 18, right? Yeah, I think we can safely assume there's a typo there. Hello? Thank you for your patience. A little bit of break. There you go. All right. So, when impartiality is mastered, self and other, friend and foe are equal. Pride will have no place, and realization deep and peaceful will arise. And freed from all confusion, we will truly gain the primordial wisdom of the Dhammadhatu and the Svabhavika Kaya. So this is then what we sometimes translate as equanimity or equality. And again, this is really the absence of attachment and aversion. As such, it becomes the foundation for a greater degree of caring for others. So it never ever, equanimity, like when we say made equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion, or attachment to dear ones and enmity to others, may we be free from that, or may all be liberated into equanimity. We never ever think of some sort of emotionless state where we don't have any attachment to friends and we have no aversion to others, in the sense of just a bland indifference. It's rather than with the sort of diminishment of our experience through just purely seeing the world in terms of what's in it for me, my relationship to others, of which some I like and some I don't like. This condition, when there are persons that we like and we're strongly attached to them, very often by the mere power of our attachment, we're not really sort of relating to them, we're more relating to our projections. The same also applies with our aversion. Our aversion to others very often is founded on mere concepts, and very often you say baggage that we drag on from before. And so attachment and aversion, they're simply not, they're not real ways of relating to our reality as we know. But that's where equanimity means that we're free from this diminishment of our relationship to others. So as such, then, it's through impartiality that we have a much greater depth in our relationship with others. And then again, and that's in terms of our, say, conventional reality, but again, it is ultimately, and according to its intention, is then the freedom from any reference point of self and other. And that's where we talk about gaining the wisdom of the Dhammadhatu. So Kangyur Rinpoche writes, as one becomes proficient in the practice of impartiality, one will benefit oneself and others equally, whether friends, enemies, or neither. As a result, all self-cherishing or conceited, artificial altruism and pride will subside. For the mind is empty. It is empty even though it now strays from the evenness of the middle position, its true and ultimate nature, and so clings to the conceptual extremes of existence and non-existence. It is within this emptiness, in the expanse of peace, wherein all conceptual activities subsides, that the extraordinary realization of impartiality is born. So here then, the Kangyur Rinpoche is identifying the aspect of our ignorance, and that's where we can understand, if we analyze how our mind is empty, the phenomenal world lacks intrinsic existence, and yet we could say the mind is empty, and yet on the basis of our ignorance, it falls into these extreme positions and clings to these conceptual extremes: existence, non-existence, thinking things are or they are not. In fact, there's never anything that comes into existence, so we can't talk about existence. And as a consequence, we can't talk about non-existence. And we can't talk about non-existence as an ultimate because there is continually phenomena that appears. And yet these, even though they appear, then if we look at them, they have no existence. So that's where we can see these are in these notions of existing and non-existent, existing. And this is not philosophy. This is how we operate continually in terms of thinking about anything. That's where we talk about these being beyond, innately, in the absolute. not in the relative that we're experiencing, but in their reality. And that's where we fail. We fail to see this empty nature. And that's where we cling on to these conceptual extremes. But it's then when we engage this insight, and it's if we analyze and we really look carefully, these conceptual extremes are non-existent. So we say it is within this emptiness, in the expanse of peace, wherein all conceptual activity subsides, that the extraordinary realization of impartiality is born. So this is where we talk about this quality of impartiality as being something that liberates us into a greater understanding of reality. Essentially, impartiality is simply the absence of ignorance, the confused apprehension of distinctions between friend and enemy. It is the pacification of extreme notions. So of course we can identify how friend and enemy is a very relative confusion. But here we're talking about any kind of extreme notions, any kind of positioning in terms of existence, non-existence, coming and going, and so forth. So this is seeing the nature, simply the ground nature of everything, and this is what we refer to as the wisdom of Dharmadhatu. Ultimately, Kangyur Rinpoche says the wisdom of the Dharmadhatu that knows that all phenomena are equal, beyond acceptance and rejection, will be realized, and the Svabhavika Kaya will be attained, the expanse that is utterly pure and free from all obscurations. As the Pema Tsemo Tantra says, impartiality, the great impartiality, purifies stupidity and pride. It is the wisdom of equality together with the wisdom of the Dharmadhatu, the body of manifest enlightenment and the Vajra body, respectively. So in this way, the qualities of bodhicitta are all accomplished on the basis of these four. These four boundless love, boundless compassion, boundless joy, and boundless impartiality. They all become the foundations for all the qualities of the path. So, as it says in the Longchen Nyingtik bodhicitta, it says, on the basis of these four, we develop bodhicitta. As we'll also see in the next chapter, then, this is where this discussion takes us. We'll be discussing bodhicitta. So 18. And so the qualities of the four boundless attitudes in cause and fruit are infinite, infallible. The teachings of false paths are causes of samsara. They contradict the teaching of compassion joined with emptiness. Let us not attend to them, I beg, but let us now pursue the sacred path of bodhisattvas, leading to unsullied liberation. Let us train ourselves in virtue that destroys impurity. So in this way, we can see the vast value of these qualities, and we can't satisfy ourselves saying, well, I have a bit of love, I have a bit of compassion, because we can see here, we're talking about these are qualities that can be cultivated in an infinite degree. So we understand also that these sentiments, they can be held by ignorant attitudes, the attitudes of self, in which the object then becomes object of love, object of compassion, and so forth. So here we're going much further than that, and that's where we're now being led to pursue the actual path of the bodhisattvas, which leads to a complete understanding of the nature of reality, and as an expression of that also a boundless dedication without any reference to self, and just the natural quality of compassion. So this is where Jigme Lingpa finishes with this encouragement: let us train ourselves in virtue that destroys impurity. So here again, we should be a little bit aware of some of the language. What we mean with virtue is quite simply, of course, yes, virtue in the sense of being nice and being good, but also virtue in the sense of cultivating wisdom. And it's the wisdom that cultivates impurity. So here again, impurity doesn't mean bad boys or bad girls, impure boys or impure girls, impure behavior, sort of. That's again where when we talk about impurity, we're talking about confusion, projections, and the absence of clear seeing. So this then takes us to the next chapter, which is the chapter on bodhicitta, and I hadn't actually expected us to arrive at this point this quickly. Anyway, I haven't actually even gotten there yet, so there we go. Let's read Kangyur Rinpoche's commentary. So, it is thus possible to train in the four boundless attitudes according to the extraordinary Mahayana, bringing into play an understanding of the ground, path, and fruit. The path of the two accumulations, which bring to birth the two kayas, as understood on the level of the sutra teachings, and the path of skillful means and wisdom, which purify the two veils, as understood in the context of Tantra, are as far as the ground nature is concerned, one and the same. Because these two paths, by means of which ultimate reality is actualized, are not by nature different, the same is also true of their respective result, namely the two kayas. So however we approach it, of course, we would say that the Vajrayana, the Tantra teachings, they have a more direct way of relating to reality as it exists beyond our particular experience of the veils, the obscurations. That's where we take the result of eliminating the veils as the path. So that's where the Vajrayana is particularly effective in purifying the two veils. But of course, the nature of the Vajrayana, of Tantra, is the achievement of the two kayas. So let's just see the comment here. So it says here, this says here, the two paths are identical in that they bring about the realization of, quote, emptiness endowed with the heart of compassion. Toni Ninje Ningpo-chen. The same can be said about the final result. The fruit of Sutrayana and Tantrayana is likewise one and the same. So we agree on that. Finally, the Sri Maladevi Sutra says, quote, all who meditate upon the four boundless attitudes will attract the notice of the Buddhas. They will acquire limitless qualities surpassing the very vastness of the sky. False paths and non-Buddhist traditions do not possess the teaching and practice of the four boundless attitudes. Their tenets result in samsaric existence. The commentary on the praise of the ground says, the four boundless attitudes are the path to liberation. Neglect them and you will go astray. Again, note what we're talking about here as being boundless. So it's boundless both in terms of the objective, in terms of conventional truth, in terms of relative truth, all sentient beings. In terms of absolute truth, then there's the natural freedom from any reference point manifests in terms of these four qualities. So they are inseparably, you could say, these four are also connected to absolute truth. So Kangyur Rinpoche comments, we should not diverge from the true path of compassion combined with the wisdom of understanding the primordial emptiness of phenomena. Jigme Lingpa requests us to train ourselves on the supreme path of the bodhisattvas, leading to liberation, free from the two obscurations, and stilling the turmoil of our minds, our self-centeredness, and our belief in the true existence of phenomena. And we should actually do it and train ourselves and not be satisfied with a mere intellectual understanding! Exclamation mark. So this concludes the chapter on the four boundless. Like I said, I hadn't actually anticipated that we would finish this chapter today, so I haven't actually prepared the next section. So we could finish here, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to to take some questions and answers, or take the questions. Let's see if there's any answers. Please go ahead. Okay, no questions coming forth. Okay, you can ask any question you like about what we've covered in previous chapters, and you can even ask any any questions about the Dharma. Just go ahead. And some of you probably know I'm going to be taking a year off to do a little bit of practice. So we'll be concluding. I hope to finish I definitely want to finish the next chapter on bodhicitta before Christmas. So we'll see how we go. I think it should be possible. A little bit of I have to sort of coordinate that. I don't know if it'll. I'll have to see how big the chapter is. But anyway, so we're gonna have. I'm giving everyone a break. I've been pestering the Sangha with all sorts of programs. So now you have a break. You can, without feeling guilty, you can take time off on Saturday, late Saturday afternoon. Is my video off? No, it's not. It is definitely on. Yep, video is not off. Yes, it is okay. Mm. The next one will be the vow of bodhicitta. What is bodhicitta? We'll miss you in your study sessions. Oh, thank you. I'll miss you too. But we shall meet again. Why 5 wisdoms? Simply because the nature of our reality seems to be understood in terms of 5. You know, when we talk about our phenomenal reality, the 5 elements, which in their intrinsic ground are the 5 lights. When we talk about our being, we talk about 5 skandhas. So essentially, on the basis of that understanding of everything as 5-fold, then we talk about the impure condition of samsara in terms of 5 skandhas, 5 kleshas, and so forth, and 5 elements. And in the pure condition, we talk about 5 wisdoms and 5 lights. Sometimes also referred to as the 5 expanses, or the expanses of the 5 mothers, the 5 wisdom dakinis. How this wisdom rules our lives? Well, it's there, but our problem is it's not ruling our lives. So that's where wisdom is the underlying nature of our confusion. So right now, due to our ignorance, we fixate on me, and we fixate on solid me, solid other. And that's where, instead of having wisdom, we have this delusional fixation on me. And that's where the abiding condition, which we could say is wisdom, it's veiled. So that's why on the practice of the path, on the basis of prajna, we begin to eliminate what it is that veils our wisdom nature. And that's why we practice the path. So when we don't practice the path, we're ruled by ignorance and pleasures, afflictions, and also patterns that come from these afflictions. So we talk about then we have a condition we call samsara. And what we're doing with the path, what we're doing then is we understand that our nature is not ultimately confused. Our nature is ultimately awake, ultimately nirvana. And yet temporarily, this condition of nirvana is veiled by samsara. And so the practice of the path is to begin to eliminate these veils that obstruct our or prevent us from experiencing wisdom. And that is also why through the practice of the path, we gradually eliminate confusion and gradually we realize wisdom. Grazie mille. Yeah, I'm talking about this being my break, but it's also your break. You can, you know. Anyway, I'm not gone yet. So like I said, we're going to be looking at the next chapter on bodhicitta, and like I said, I hope we can complete this. All right. I apologize. I'm ending the classes a little bit early these days. Again, today I've had a seminar that ran from 10 in the morning until 4 this afternoon. But I would actually have continued all the way if I had realized that that I would finish the chapter today. Okay, here it says, is that what Tsongsa Gyaltsen Rinpoche means when he says that wisdom is the driver's seat with ethics in the back seat? Yeah, that's right. Wisdom is really what does the trick. So it's the primary. So of course we have wisdom, we have compassion, we have ethics, but you could say the qualities of ethics. Ethics is supposed to, support the development of wisdom, and we would also say that wisdom is an expression. It's the spontaneous. Compassion is the spontaneous expression of wisdom. But as long as we're held back by ignorance, then the nature of wisdom is completely veiled, and that's why the path really is the primary. The prajna, the nature of the path, and the nature of what we're doing in terms of the path to enlightenment is essentially cultivating prajna, cultivating the wisdom that cuts through the confusion or the ignorance or the deception that veils the nature. And so it is primary. So of course, wisdom is out driving with compassion and also ethics. And also in the back seat there, together with ethics, you have meditation. So you have ethical behavior. You also have, in terms of what we're doing, namely the practice of meditation. But both ethics and meditation, they're means for developing this wisdom. Yeah. Okay. We'll conclude with dedication. Through all our births, wherever we may be born, may we be endowed with the 7 good qualities of the higher realms. As soon as we're born, may we meet with the Dharma and have the freedom to practice it properly. At that time, may we please the holy gurus and practice the Dharma throughout the day and night. Realizing the Dharma and accomplishing its essential meaning, may we cross the ocean of existence in that life. Thoroughly teaching the holy Dharma in this world, may we never tire of accomplishing the benefits of others. By this vast benefit of others, without partiality or bias, may all attain Buddhahood together. Thank you very much for joining me in this study. Shall see you again. next week. Thank you.